The first painting began to bleed at midnight. Not real blood, something darker. A thin, crimson line emerged beneath the varnish as Elena Vieri passed a heated spatula over the surface, revealing a buried layer no museum catalogue had ever recorded. She stopped breathing. Outside the restoration chamber, rain struck the high windows of Palazzo Valenti in long silver threads. Thunder rolled beyond the rooftops of Florence, shaking dust from the carved ceiling. The private museum had been closed for hours, yet Elena could still feel the armed guards stationed beyond the double doors. She leaned closer to the 16th-century portrait. The painted woman wore black velvet and a narrow gold chain. Her face had been deliberately damaged centuries ago, the eyes scratched away and the mouth covered by a later layer of paint. Elena had spent 3 weeks removing the additions. Tonight, beneath the woman's throat, she had uncovered a symbol, a small, white moth. Its wings were divided by a vertical scar. Elena's gloved hand trembled. She knew that moth. She had drawn it hundreds of times as a child, on napkins, on the margins of school books, on the fogged windows of the orphanage where she had lived after the fire. She had never known why. A floorboard creaked behind her. Elena turned sharply. Dante Valenti stood in the doorway. He wore a black suit without a tie, the top button of his white shirt open. Rain darkened the shoulders of his coat. He had returned without sound, without the usual procession of men who moved through the palazzo as though every corridor belonged to him. Maybe every corridor did. At 38, Dante was the most feared man in Florence. Newspapers called him a patron of the arts. Politicians called him a benefactor. Men who knew the truth rarely called him anything at all. His gaze moved from Elena's face to the exposed moth beneath the portrait. For the first time since she had met him, the calm disappeared from his eyes. "Step away from the painting." His voice was low. Elena looked back at the symbol. "What is this?" "Elena, why do I recognize it?" He entered the room and closed the door behind him. That frightened her more than if he had drawn a weapon. She pulled off one glove. "You told me the portrait came from a monastery outside Siena." "It did." "You told me it had no recorded provenance before 1890. "It doesn't." "Then why is there a symbol beneath the varnish that I drew when I was 6 years old?" Silence stretched between them. Dante's eyes settled on the scar along the left side of her face. He had never stared at it the way other people did. He did not glance away out of pity. He did not soften his expression to prove that he was kind. He looked at her scar as though it were evidence, as though it belonged to a crime he had never forgotten. "Elena," he said, "leave the museum." She laughed once, without humor. "That is not an answer. It is the only one you are getting tonight." Thunder cracked over the city. The lights flickered. For one instant, the restoration room fell dark. When the emergency lamps came on, Dante was standing closer, too close. His hand hovered beside her elbow without touching her. "Take your bag," he said. "My driver will bring you home. You hired me because I am the best restorer in Florence. I hired you because you were available." "That is a lie." His expression did not change, but something tightened in his jaw. Elena had spent years studying faces beneath damaged paint. She knew how to recognize concealed fractures. Dante Valenti was afraid, not for himself. For her, the realization sent a cold of fear through her. "What is behind that symbol?" she asked. "Nothing you want. That is not your decision. It became my decision the moment you uncovered it." She stepped toward him. "Do you threaten every woman who asks you a question?" "No." His voice dropped. "Only the one who has no idea how many people would kill her for the answer." Before Elena could respond, a muted explosion shook the eastern wing. The windows shuddered. Somewhere beyond the corridor, men shouted. Dante moved instantly. He caught Elena around the waist and pulled her to the floor as glass shattered above them. A bullet tore through the high window, struck the opposite wall, and buried itself in a gilded frame. Dante covered Elena with his body. His weight was controlled, protective, crushingly real. One hand shielded the back of her head. The other drew a pistol from beneath his jacket. Elena could smell rain on him, gunpowder from the corridor, and the faint cedar scent she had noticed whenever he stood behind her during restoration meetings. Another shot struck the stone pillar. Dante raised his head. The softness vanished from his face. "Stay down." He fired once through the broken window. A distant figure dropped from the neighboring roof. Elena stared at him. He did not look at the body. He looked at the blood on her cheek, where a shard of glass had cut her. His thumb moved toward it, almost touching her skin. Then he stopped himself. Footsteps thundered outside. The door opened, and 3 armed men entered. "East roof secured," one of them said. "There are more at the courtyard gate." Dante rose, pulling Elena with him. "Take her downstairs." "No." Elena twisted free. "I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what is happening." His gaze hardened. "This is not a negotiation. You brought me into a building where someone just tried to shoot me. They were not shooting at you." "How comforting." Dante looked at the damaged portrait. The white moth glimmered beneath the emergency lights. "They will be next time." He turned to his men. "Move her." 2 guards approached. Elena grabbed her metal conservation tool from the work table and held it like a blade. The men stopped. Dante's eyes lowered to the instrument, then returned to her face. For a brief second, something almost like admiration passed through them. "Do not touch me," she warned. "No one will touch you." He spoke to his men without looking away from her. "Clear the lower corridor. I will take her." A second explosion sounded near the front gate. The emergency lights went out completely. Dante's fingers closed around Elena's wrist. "Run." They moved through darkness. He led her behind the restoration chamber, through a narrow service door she had never noticed, and down a spiral staircase built inside the stone wall. Elena stumbled once. Dante caught her against his chest. For one suspended moment, they stood pressed together in the dark. His palm rested at the center of her back. Her breath struck his throat. She could feel the restraint in him, the deliberate distance he maintained, even while holding her. Then gunfire erupted above them. He released her. At the bottom of the stairs, Dante pressed his hand against a concealed panel. A steel door opened into a tunnel lit by low amber lamps. The passage smelled of old stone and damp earth. "What is this place?" Elena whispered. "A way out. You have secret tunnels beneath a museum? I have secret tunnels beneath most things I own. That is not normal. Neither is being shot at while restoring a Medici portrait." Despite the danger, she nearly smiled. Dante noticed. His gaze lingered on her mouth, half a second too long. Then he turned away. At the end of the tunnel waited a black SUV with its engine running. Rain poured through an open courtyard above them. 2 vehicles blocked the exit, their headlights cutting through the storm. Dante opened the rear door. "Get in." Elena did not move. "Who attacked the museum?" "I don't know yet." "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to survive long enough to accuse me properly." She stared at him. Rain ran through his hair and down the sharp line of his face. Even in chaos, he seemed controlled. Dangerous, not because he was angry, but because anger did not own him. Behind them, another gunshot echoed through the tunnel. Dante placed one hand on the roof of the SUV and leaned closer. "I will answer what I can," he said, "but not here." "Where?" "My home." "I am not going to your home." A bullet struck the stone wall beside her. Dante pulled her against him and fired toward the tunnel. A man fell behind the staircase. Elena froze. Dante looked down at her. "Your objection is noted." He pushed her into the SUV and climbed in after her. The doors locked. As the vehicle accelerated into the rain, Elena watched flames begin to rise from the eastern roof of the museum, and in the reflected fire, she saw Dante staring at the white moth sketched in the corner of her notebook, not with curiosity, with recognition, as though he had been waiting 16 years for her to draw it again. Dante Valenti's home stood above Florence, like a fortress built for a man who trusted stone more than people. Villa Serafina occupied the highest point of a private hill beyond the city. Cypress trees lined the road, security lights swept across terraced gardens, and marble statues veiled by rain. Armed men waited beneath the portico as the SUVs arrived. Elena stepped out before Dante could reach her door. Her knees almost gave way. She hated that he noticed. He placed one hand near her waist, but did not touch her. "I can walk." "I did not say you couldn't. You were thinking it. I was thinking you lost blood." "It is a cut. It is still blood." Inside, the villa was warm and dimly lit. There were no family photographs, no signs of ordinary life, only old books, dark wood, and paintings Elena recognized as museum-quality works that should have belonged to public collections. A woman in her 60s approached with a medical case. "Sit down," she told Elena. "I don't need—" "Sit." Elena looked at Dante. "Does everyone in your house give orders?" "Only the people I trust." The woman introduced herself as Dr. Sophia Marchetti. She cleaned the cut on Elena's cheek while Dante stood near the window, speaking quietly into his phone. "No police," he said. "Lock the museum. Nobody enters the restoration wing without my approval." He listened. "Find out which family authorized the shooter." Another pause. "No. Alive." His tone remained even. "That was not mercy. I need him to speak." Elena watched him through the mirror. The world saw a cultured billionaire who funded orphanages and restored churches. The man reflected behind her, ordered interrogations as calmly as other men ordered dinner. Dr. Marchetti closed her case. "The cut will heal." Elena touched the bandage. Her fingers moved unconsciously toward the older scar beneath it. The doctor noticed, but said nothing. Dante ended the call. "Thank you, Sophia." When they were alone, Elena stood. "I am leaving." "No." The single word stopped her. She turned slowly. "You do not own me. I am aware." "Then unlock the gate." "The people who attacked the museum followed your taxi yesterday." A chill moved across her shoulders. "What? They photographed your apartment? Your workshop? The cafe where you eat breakfast? You knew?" "I found out this afternoon." "And you said nothing." "I doubled the men watching you." Elena stared at him. "The men watching me?" Dante remained silent. Her heartbeat changed. Not faster, heavier. "You have been surveilling me for 6 weeks. You hired me 6 weeks ago." "Yes." "You watched me from the moment I started working for you." "Yes." The honesty felt more violent than denial. Elena took a step back. The room seemed to narrow around him. "How long before that?" His gaze did not move. She understood before he answered. "How long, Dante?" 12 years. The villa disappeared. For a moment, Elena heard only the fire from her childhood. Glass breaking, wood collapsing, a woman screaming her name through smoke. She remembered waking weeks later in a hospital with half her face bandaged and no parents left alive to explain why. 12 years, she repeated. "I never entered your home. How noble. I never interfered with your work or relationships. You watched them." "Yes, you watched me grow up." "No." The force beneath the word startled her. Dante crossed the room, then stopped several feet away, as though he knew that coming closer would make her run. "I knew where you were," he said. "That is not the same as watching you. You had men follow me, to keep others from finding you." "Who?" He looked toward the rain-dark windows. "People who believe you died in the fire." "What fire?" His eyes returned to her scar. "The one that killed your parents." Elena's mouth went dry. "The police said it was an electrical fault." "The police were paid." "By whom?" Dante said nothing. She laughed again, but this time her voice broke. "Of course. Another answer you cannot give." "Not yet. You don't decide when I learn the truth about my own life. I decide when the truth will not put a bullet through your head." She moved toward him before she realized she had done it. "You knew my parents." Dante's expression shifted, barely, but Elena saw grief there. "Yes." "How?" "I knew your father." "What was his name?" He hesitated. That cut deeper than everything else. "You know something I don't. You were told his name was Marco Vieri." "That was his name." "No." The word fell quietly. "Your father was Alessandro Belandi. Elena stared at him. The Belandi name belonged to Florence's hidden history. Art dealers whispered it, collectors feared it. The Belandi family had once controlled a private network that moved stolen masterpieces across Europe after the Second World War. They had recovered looted paintings, forged ownership records, blackmailed governments, and built a fortune no court had ever fully traced. The family vanished after a fire 16 years ago. Elena had read about them during university. She had never connected the story to herself. That is impossible. Your mother changed your surname before the fire. Why? To hide you. From people like you? Dante accepted the blow without flinching. Yes. Elena stepped away. The room tilted. She pressed a hand to the edge of a table. Dante moved, but she raised her palm. Don't. He stopped immediately. Were my parents criminals? Your father inherited a criminal empire. That is not what I asked. Yes. The answer entered her like ice. And my mother? She restored paintings. Elena looked at him. She was like me? No. No. His gaze lowered briefly to Elena's hands. You are like her. The restraint in his voice made the words intimate. Too intimate. Elena hated that part of her, wanted to hear more. What happened to them? Someone betrayed your father. Who? I don't know. She studied him. That is the first lie you've told me badly. Dante's face became unreadable. Before she could push further, the villa lights went out. Red security lamps illuminated the walls. A siren pulsed once and stopped. Dante reached beneath his jacket. A voice came through his earpiece. Perimeter breach. South Garden. Dante looked at Elena. Every trace of emotion vanished. Upstairs. Now. No. Elena. I am done being moved around like evidence. A bullet exploded through the window. Dante crossed the distance between them and drove her to the floor. The chandelier shattered. Men shouted outside. Dante fired twice through the broken glass, then pulled Elena behind a stone column. Your independence is admirable, he said calmly, reloading. Your timing is terrible. She should have been terrified. She was. But there was something more disturbing than fear. She trusted him, not because he was good, not because she believed him. She trusted him because the moment danger arrived, his entire body became a promise that nothing would reach her first. Footsteps sounded in the corridor. Dante turned, weapon raised. His security chief entered. 3 men. Salvi insignia. Dante's eyes sharpened. Vittorio? No confirmation. At the name, something inside Elena shifted. She had heard it before, not recently, in a dream, a man's voice behind a closed door. Vittorio says, the child must disappear. Pain flashed through her skull. She pressed a hand to her temple. Dante noticed. What is it? I know that name. The security chief looked at Dante. Dante's silence confirmed too much. Elena pushed herself to her feet. Who is Vittorio Salvi? Dante slowly lowered his gun. My uncle. And what does he have to do with me? He ordered the fire that killed your parents. The words were barely out before the south wall erupted inward. The force threw Dante across Elena. Stone and glass filled the room. He took the impact on his back. For several seconds there was no sound but ringing. Then Elena felt warmth spreading across her hand. Blood. Dante's blood. A piece of glass had entered his shoulder. He looked down at her as though the wound did not matter. Are you hurt? She stared at him. You're bleeding. Answer me. No. Good. Gunfire tore through the doorway. Dante rose despite the glass in his shoulder and fired with his left hand. His men moved around them. Elena saw a masked attacker enter from the garden. The man lifted his weapon toward Dante's back. Without thinking, Elena seized a bronze sculpture from the shattered table and threw it. The heavy figure struck the attacker's wrist. His shot went wide. Dante turned and fired. The man collapsed. Silence followed. Dante looked at Elena across the ruined room. You saved my life. You saved mine first. That does not create a debt. No? No. His eyes darkened. It creates a problem. Before she could ask what he meant, his knees buckled. Elena caught him. For the first time, Dante Valenti looked human. His head lowered beside hers, His breath warmed the scar along her cheek. "Do not let them take you," he whispered. Then he lost consciousness in her arms. Dante's private medical suite occupied an entire floor of the villa. Of course it did. Men like him prepared for bullets the way ordinary people prepared for rain. Elena sat outside the operating room while Dr. Marchetti removed the glass from his shoulder. No one asked her to stay. No one told her she could leave. The villa gates had been sealed, the roads blocked, and armed guards stationed at every window. The practical part of Elena understood that escape would be impossible. The less practical part had no desire to go. She kept seeing Dante falling, kept hearing the final sentence he had spoken before losing consciousness. "Do not let them take you, not protect the museum, not save the paintings, her." The security chief approached shortly before dawn. He was a broad-shouldered man named Tommaso Rinaldi, with silver at his temples and a scar across one knuckle. "You should sleep," he said. "I'm not tired." "You are shaking." Elena looked down. He was right. She folded her hands together. "What happens if Dante dies?" "He won't." "That was not my question." Tommaso studied her. "The Valenti organization fractures. Salvi takes the Eastern Territories. 3 families begin a war before sunrise. And me? You disappear. Because Vittorio wants me dead? Because Dante told us to keep you alive. Even if he dies? Especially then." The operating room doors opened. Dr. Marchetti removed her mask. "He will recover." The tension left Tommaso's shoulders. Elena felt something inside her loosen. She hated the relief. "Can I see him?" The doctor gave her a knowing look that Elena immediately resented. "He is sedated." "I didn't ask whether he was awake." Dante lay beneath white sheets, his shoulder bandaged, his face pale beneath the low light. Without the suit, the guards, and the terrifying stillness he carried like armor, he looked younger, more dangerous in a different way. Elena sat beside him. For several minutes she said nothing. Then she noticed an old scar beneath his ribs. Not a clean surgical line, a burn. Her fingers hovered above it. She did not touch. "You stare when people cannot stare back." His voice was rough. Elena pulled her hand away. Dante opened his eyes. "You're awake." "Unfortunately, you were shot at, stabbed by a window, and nearly crushed by a wall. I have had worse evenings. I'm beginning to understand why you own a hospital floor. It saves paperwork." She looked toward the door. "Tommaso said your organization collapses if you die." Tommaso is dramatic. He does not seem dramatic. "No, that is why it is concerning." Dante tried to sit. Pain tightened his face. Elena pressed a hand against his chest. "Don't." His body went completely still beneath her palm. So did hers. His eyes lowered to her hand. She could feel his heartbeat. Slow, powerful, alive. Elena withdrew. "You should rest. You should leave Florence." "I tried leaving your museum. Someone shot at me. I mean the country." "And go where?" "I have a house in Iceland." She blinked. "Of course you do. No one knows about it. You know about it. I am not trying to kill you. That remains under review." A faint shadow of amusement crossed his mouth. It disappeared quickly. Dante looked at the ceiling. "Vittorio will not stop now." "Why did he wait 16 years?" "Because he thought you were dead." "What changed?" "The portrait." "The moth?" "Yes." Elena leaned forward. "Explain it." Dante remained silent long enough that she thought he would refuse. Then he said, "Your parents did not trust banks, governments, or each other's allies. They hid records inside paintings." "What kind of records?" "Names, transactions, locations of stolen collections, judges who accepted bribes, ministers who protected smugglers, families who ordered murders." "And the moth is a marker? A guide? To what?" "A sequence." Elena remembered the hundreds of sketches from childhood. The wings, the lines, the strange numbers she sometimes wrote beneath them without understanding why. "My mother taught me the code." "Yes. Why can't I remember?" "The fire." She touched her scar. Dante's eyes followed the motion. "The doctors said trauma erased parts of your childhood," he continued. "Your mother expected it might. She designed the system around visual memory. She believed that if you ever saw the paintings again, you would remember enough to expose the people who killed them. Elena stood and walked to the window. Dawn spread pale grey over the hills. Then why did you collect the paintings? To prevent anyone else from finding them. How many? 217. Her breath caught. 217 paintings? Some are fragments, sketches, panels, frescoes removed from churches. And all of them are in the museum? Dante did not answer. Elena turned. Are they? His chaza held hers. Most. Where are the others? Lost. Destroyed. Or owned by families who do not know what they contain. She stared at him. The absurdity of it pressed against the edges of reality. You spent years buying paintings connected to my childhood. Yes. You built a private museum around them. Yes. You watched me from a distance to keep you hidden, and then you hired me to restore the collection. Dante's face closed. That was a mistake. Why? Because I believed the danger had passed. No. Elena moved closer to the bed. You knew exactly what might happen. I believed you deserved to see your mother's work. Without telling me it was hers, I wanted to know whether you remembered. The betrayal landed quietly. That made it worse. You tested me. Dante did not deny it. You put me in front of those paintings and watched. Yes. You stood behind me every day, knowing who I was. Yes. The word broke something. Elena's eyes burned. She refused to let the tears fall. Did you enjoy it? His expression changed with something close to pain. No. Did you enjoy watching me struggle to understand why certain colors made me sick? Why I had nightmares after cleaning the chapel panels? Why I recognized rooms I had never seen? No. You could have told me. I could have gotten you killed. You do not know that. I know exactly that. His voice sharpened for the first time. Every person who helped your father died within 6 months of the fire. The nurse who carried you out was found in the Arno. The detective who altered your records disappeared. The priest who arranged the false adoption was shot on the steps of his church. Elena went still. Dante's eyes burned into hers. I was 19 years old, he said. I found you in a hospital with half your face burned and 3 men outside, waiting to finish what the fire had started. I killed them before they reached your room. The air vanished from the space between them. Dante continued more quietly. I changed the hospital records. I paid the orphanage director. I made certain Vittorio believed the Belandi child had died. You saved me. Yes. Why? His face became unreadable again. That answer is not useful. It is to me. No. She stepped closer. Why? Dante looked away. The refusal felt more personal than every truth he had admitted. Elena stood over him, furious and shaken. You do not get to decide which answers matter to me. You are right. The quiet agreement surprised her. His eyes returned to her face. But I get to decide which weaknesses I hand to my enemies. I am not your enemy. No. His gaze lowered to her mouth. That is the weakness. Neither moved. The machines beside the bed continued their steady rhythm. Elena felt the dangerous pull between them, stripped of the distance he had maintained since the museum. She should have stepped away. Instead, she whispered, You do not know me. I know you drink coffee only after it becomes cold, because your mother used to forget hers beside the restoration table. Elena's breath caught. I know you leave the curtains open during storms because darkness behind glass frightens you more than lightning. He should not have known that. I know you restore every damaged face before working on the background because you cannot bear leaving someone trapped beneath varnish. His eyes moved to her scar. And I know you think beauty is something you can save for everyone except yourself. The tears came before she could stop them. One slid across the undamaged side of her face. Dante lifted his hand. His fingers paused inches from her cheek. The gesture was so restrained, it hurt more than touch. May, the most feared man in Florence, was asking permission to wipe away one tear. Elena closed her eyes. That was all the permission she could give. His thumb brushed her skin, not the smooth side, the scarred one. His touch traveled gently over the raised edge beneath her cheekbone, as though the scar were neither ugly nor fragile. Elena opened her eyes. Dante's control was gone. Not entirely, but enough. She saw hunger, grief, and something darker than either. Something that had been growing for years in silence. A knock struck the door. Dante's hand fell away. Tommaso entered. We found the surviving attacker. Dante became cold again. Where? Lower cellar. Who sent him? He won't speak. He will. Dante swung his legs from the bed. Elena stared at him. You just had surgery. I am aware. You are not going anywhere. He looked almost offended by the suggestion. You cannot stop me. No. But I can pull the emergency alarm and have Dr. Marchetti sedate you. Tommaso lowered his eyes, hiding something that might have been amusement. Dante, studied Elena. This is why I should have left you in Iceland. You haven't taken me there. Yet. Tommaso cleared his throat. There is something else. The attacker carried a photograph. He handed Elena a sealed plastic sleeve. The image had been taken outside her apartment. Elena stood beneath an awning, holding a paper bag. Behind her, written in black ink, were 4 words. The child opened the door. Elena looked at Dante. What door? But she knew the wrong one. The door, somewhere inside his museum, that he had never intended her to find. 2 days later, Dante returned Elena to Palazzo Valenti, not because he wanted to, because she threatened to escape through the villa kitchen and walk to Florence if he refused. He believed her. The museum remained closed. Scaffolding covered the damaged roof. Men with rifles patrolled the courtyard beneath grey skies. Dante wore a dark overcoat over his injured shoulder. The wound made his movements stiffer, but not weaker. Elena followed him through the restoration wing. You will remain beside me, he said. I know how hallways work. You will not open anything. That is less likely. He stopped. Elena. She met his chaser. You hid my life in this building. Do not ask me to behave like a guest. His jaw tightened. He continued walking. They entered the chamber, where the moth portrait still rested beneath a protective cloth. The broken window had been boarded. Dust covered the tables. Elena removed the cloth. The symbol looked different in daylight. Beneath the moth's wings, she noticed a nearly invisible line angled toward the painted woman's hand. The finger pointed left. There is another marker, Elena said. Dante stood behind her. How do you know? I don't. She followed the painted direction toward a carved panel near the fireplace. A memory flashed. Her mother kneeling beside a red door. Follow the women who cannot see. Elena touched the wall. The portrait's eyes were scratched out for a reason. Dante's expression changed. She pressed the moth emblem carved into the wooden molding. A mechanism clicked. The panel opened. Behind it was a narrow corridor. Cold air moved across Elena's face. Dante stepped in front of her. No, you did not know this was here. That makes it worse. It means the museum belonged to my family before it belonged to yours. He did not deny it. Elena moved past him. Dante caught her wrist. The touch was firm, but not painful. Once you enter, there may be no way to make you safe again. She looked at his hand, then at his face. I have not been safe since the day you found me in that hospital. Something wounded moved through his eyes. His fingers loosened. Elena entered the corridor. Dante followed. The passage descended beneath the western gallery. Dust lay thick across the stone floor, undisturbed for years. At the end stood a black door without a handle. A white moth was etched into its center. Elena's heartbeat pounded. She pressed her palm against the symbol. Nothing happened. Dante examined the frame. There is a lock. No keyhole. Not a conventional one. Elena looked at the scar dividing the moth's wings. She touched the raised line on her own face. A memory struck hard enough to stagger her. Her mother's voice. Scars are maps, little bird. Even the ones we never wanted. Elena reached into her bag and removed a thin restoration blade. She slid it vertically through the moth symbol. The lock released. Dante pulled her back as the door opened inward. Lights flickered on, one by one. Elena forgot how to breathe. The chamber stretched far beyond the museum's foundations. Hundreds of paintings lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Portraits, landscapes, religious panels, charcoal sketches, fragments of frescoes, small canvases sealed behind glass. Every artwork contained a white moth, some obvious, others hidden in clouds, lace, smoke, or flowers. At the center of the room stood a single, unfinished portrait. A little girl sat beside an easel. Her dark hair was tied with a white ribbon. She had no scar. Elena walked toward it. Her knees weakened. The child was her. She knew the blue dress, the wooden horse beside the easel, the paint on the child's fingers. Her mother had painted this. Behind the portrait stood rows of photographs. Elena at the orphanage. Elena leaving school. Elena beginning university. Elena working in a small restoration studio in Rome. Elena returning to Florence. The photographs covered 12 years. Her stomach turned. She stepped backward. Dante saw what she had found. His face changed. Elena, you said you didn't watch me. I didn't take those. Your museum. Your room. Your photographs. I did not know this room existed. She looked around wildly. The evidence was everywhere. Private moments. Her life. Her loneliness. One photograph showed her asleep against a train window. Another showed her at her mother's grave, though Elena had believed the grave belonged to a woman named Lucia Vieri. There was even a photograph of Elena standing before the mirror in her apartment, touching her scar, taken through the window. She felt violated down to the bone. You lied. Dante moved toward her. She raised the restoration blade. He stopped. Do not come closer. I did not take them. You admitted having men follow me. They reported locations. They did not enter your life. Do you expect me to understand the distinction? Yes. His voice remained steady, but his eyes did not, because whoever made this room had access to you that my men did not. Elena shook her head. No. Look at the dates. I don't care. The most recent photograph was taken yesterday. Her eyes snapped to the wall. There she was, entering Villa Serafina after the museum attack. The angle came from inside Dante's security perimeter. Someone close to him had taken it. Dante reached for his phone. Elena backed away. You brought me here. I brought you to the museum, not this room. You built your empire around my parents' secrets. To bury them. You watched me. To keep you alive. You touched my face and made me believe. Her voice broke. Dante went completely still. What did I make you believe? She hated him for asking. She hated herself for having an answer. That I was safe with you. A gunshot echoed through the hidden chamber. Dante lung it. The bullet struck the unfinished portrait where Elena's head had been. He dragged her behind a stone pedestal as armed men entered through a second door at the far end. The museum lights went out. Muzzle flashes tore through darkness. Dante shielded Elena while returning fire. Stay behind me. She pushed against him. You're injured. I will remain injured. You will remain alive. A man moved between the paintings. Elena saw the glint of his weapon. She grabbed a jar of restoration solvent from an open work table and threw it toward a burning wall lamp. Flames erupted across the floor. The attacker recoiled. Dante fired. The man dropped. Smoke spread through the chamber. A second attacker seized Elena from behind. She drove the restoration blade into his thigh. He cursed and tightened an arm around her throat. Dante turned. The attacker pressed a gun against Elena's scar. Drop it. Dante's weapon lowered. Elena had never seen murder in a man's face before. Not rage, not panic, a decision. The attacker smiled. Vittorio wants the girl alive. Then you should not have touched her. Dante dropped his gun. The man's eyes flicked downward. Elena slammed her heel into his knee. At the same instant, Dante drew a second weapon from his ankle. One shot. The arm around Elena loosened. Dante caught her before she fell. He looked at the blood on her neck, where the gun had broken the skin. His composure fractured. Did he hurt you? I'm all right. Did he hurt you? No. Dante pulled her against him, not gently, desperately. His hand cradled the back of her head as though he needed physical proof that she was alive. Elena stood rigid in his arms. The photographs surrounded them. Her stolen life watched from every wall. She wanted to push him away. Instead, for one weak second, Her fingers closed around his coat. Dante felt it. His breath changed. Then the fire Elena had started reached the photographs. A line of flame climbed the wall. Dante released her and called his men. The chamber filled with guards and extinguishers. Tommaso entered through the main passage. When he saw the photographs, all color left his face. Dante noticed. You knew. Tommaso shook his head. Not this room, but you know who took them. Silence. Dante raised his weapon. Elena stepped between them. Not here. His eyes stayed on Tommaso. Move. No. Elena, you said you needed people alive to speak. Tommaso looked at her, then at Dante. Your uncle has someone inside the house. Who? I don't know. But the photographs were delivered through the old Valenti network. I intercepted one package 3 months ago. Dante's voice became dangerously quiet. And you did not tell me. I believed it was meant to provoke you. It was meant to locate her. I know that now. Dante stepped forward. Elena pressed her palm against his chest. The room went silent. Every man watched the scarred restorer place her hand over the heart of Florence's most feared Mafia Boss. Dante looked down at her. Do not kill the only man who might help us understand this room, she said. His eyes lifted to hers. You think this is mercy? No. What is it? An order. A strange stillness passed through him. Then Dante lowered the gun. For you, he said softly. Once. The men around them pretended not to hear, but Elena did, and she understood the danger had changed. It was no longer only that Dante Valenti might kill for her. It was that he might obey her when no one else in the world could make him bend. Elena left through the second door while Dante questioned Tommaso. She told herself she needed air. The truth was simpler. She needed distance from the man who made terror feel like protection. The hidden exit opened into an underground gallery beneath the museum. Emergency lamps illuminated rows of covered sculptures. At the far end, a stairway rose toward the original Valenti residence. Elena followed it alone. The upper door opened into a ruined nursery sealed behind the museum walls. Dust covered a small bed. Faded stars had been painted across the ceiling. A blackened wooden horse sat in the corner. Elena recognized it from the portrait. Memory struck without warning. Her mother locking the nursery door. Her father shouting downstairs. Smoke beneath the threshold. A young man breaking the window. Not a firefighter. Dante, 19 years old, blood across his white shirt, reaching through flames. Elena staggered. She remembered his eyes. You have to come with me, little moth. She had fought him, screamed for her mother. Dante had wrapped her in his coat and jumped from the second-floor balcony as the house exploded behind them. He had carried her through the garden. He had stayed beside her in the ambulance. Then he had vanished. Elena gripped the bedpost. A voice spoke behind her. You were not supposed to remember that yet. She turned. Vittorio Salvi stood in the doorway. He was in his early 60s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed. He carried no visible weapon. He looked like a diplomat arriving for dinner. 2 armed men entered behind him. Elena backed toward the window. You ordered the fire. Vittorio's expression held something almost paternal. Your father forced my hand. He was your enemy? He was my partner. Then why kill him? Because Alessandro Valenti developed a conscience. Vittorio moved into the room. He wanted to release the archive, return stolen collections, name politicians, destroy families who had protected us for generations. And my mother? She made the codes. She tried to expose you. She tried to make a child responsible for the sins of adults. Elena's hand closed around a shard of broken wood. Vittorio smiled faintly. You have her eyes? Dante said you thought I was dead. I hoped you were. The honesty chilled her. Then why take photographs? To see what you remembered. Why now? Because Dante lost discipline. Something cold moved down Elena's spine. Vittorio glanced toward the museum. My nephew spent years purchasing every painting your mother touched. At first, I believed he wanted leverage. Then, I realized he wanted to erase it. To protect himself? To protect you. Vittorio sounded almost disgusted. He followed your school records, paid for your medical care through charities, destroyed reports that mentioned your scar, threatened a surgeon who wanted to publish your case. Elena remembered the photographs. Were they yours? Some. And the others? Dante's. No, not taken by him. Taken for him. He may call it protection, but obsession often gives itself noble names. Elena refused to let the words settle. Vittorio stepped closer. Do you know why he hired you? To restore the paintings. He hired you because he was tired of loving a ghost. The room tilted. Vittorio smiled at the pain he caused. He visited the orphanage every year on the anniversary of the fire. He stood across the street where you could not see him. When you left Florence, he built contacts in every city you entered. You're lying. Ask him why no man remained in your life longer than 6 months. Elena's heart stopped. She thought of Daniel, the architect who had suddenly taken a job in Canada. Mark, who ended their relationship after receiving anonymous photographs of his married father. Lorenzo, who left Florence after being beaten outside a nightclub and refused to say who had done it. Dante did that? Not always personally. Vittorio's voice softened. But my nephew has never shared what he considers his. A gunshot cracked through the doorway. One of Vittorio's men fell. Dante entered through the smoke. His face was colder than death. Step away from her. Vittorio turned calmly. There you are. Dante's injured arm hung stiffly at his side. Blood stained the bandage beneath his shirt. He held the weapon with his other hand. Vittorio positioned himself behind Elena. A blade touched her ribs. Dante stopped. You should have killed me 16 years ago, Vittorio said. I was distracted by the child, by my father dying in the courtyard. Elena looked between them. Dante's father had died in the Belandi fire. Vittorio smiled. Your father discovered I had ordered the attack. He tried to save Alessandro. Family sentiment made him careless. You shot him. Yes. A flicker of grief entered Dante's eyes and vanished. Vittorio leaned close to Elena. Ask him what he did afterward. Dante's gaze remained on the blade. Do not listen to him. Why? Vittorio asked. Are you afraid she will discover that you inherited my business? That you killed your way through Florence while telling yourself it was revenge? I never told myself otherwise. Then tell her about the men in her life. Elena looked at Dante. Is it true? His silence answered. Pain spread beneath her ribs, sharper than Vittorio's knife. You hurt them? Tfo. Why? One stole from you. And the other? Dante's jaw tightened. He struck you. Elena remembered Lorenzo grabbing her during an argument, the bruises hidden beneath her sleeve. She had told no one. You were watching through my window. No. The building camera. That does not make it better. I know. Vittorio laughed softly. Look at him. Florence's cold prince confessing because one scarred woman asked. Dante's eyes never left Elena. I will answer for everything, he said. But you need to move away from him. He has a knife. I know. So what do you expect me to do? Trust me. Her eyes burned. That is what you destroyed. The words struck him. Vittorio felt Dante's distraction and tightened his hold. That was his mistake. Elena slammed the back of her head into his mouth. The blade cut her side. Dante fired. Vittorio twisted away. The bullet struck his shoulder, but his remaining guard dragged him through the doorway. Dante rushed to Elena as she collapsed against the bed. Blood spread across her dress. His weapon hit the floor. Elena. She had never heard fear in his voice. He pressed both hands against the wound. Look at me. She tried. The nursery blurred. Is it bad? No. You lie badly when I'm bleeding. His face broke, only for a second, but she saw the boy from the fire beneath the man he had become. I am not losing you again. Again. The word followed her into darkness. Elena woke at Villa Serafina, with Dante seated beside her bed. Rain moved quietly against the windows. He wore the same blood-stained shirt. Her blood, his elbows rested on his knees. His head was lowered. One hand held hers with such care that she almost did not feel it. She watched him before speaking. How long? Dante looked up immediately. 14 hours. You stayed. Yes. Why? His thumb moved once over her knuckles. He seemed exhausted beyond sleep. Because every time I leave you alone, someone tries to kill you. That is not the real answer. No. He released her hand and stood. The loss of contact felt colder than it should have. Elena shifted against the pillows. Pain pulled at her side. Vittorio escaped. Yes. Tommaso, alive. You didn't kill him. You asked me not to. You listened. I sometimes make mistakes. She almost smiled, then remembered the photographs, the men Dante had frightened out of her life, the years of surveillance. Did you love me when I was a child? Dante's expression hardened. No, the answer came instantly. You were a terrified 6-year-old. I protected you because my father died trying to save your family, and because leaving you unprotected would have made me no better than Vittorio. When did it change? He turned toward the window. Elena. When? His silence was longer this time. When you were 24. She remembered that year, her first public restoration. A badly damaged Madonna unveiled at a small Roman church. Dante continued without looking at her. You stood in front of 300 people while a critic asked whether your scar made you too emotionally involved in damaged faces. Elena remembered the humiliation. She also remembered her answer. Damage does not make a face less truthful. Dante repeated the sentence exactly. You said the painting was valuable, not because it survived untouched, but because someone chose to save it after violence. He looked at her. That was when Elena's throat tightened. You heard me speak. I was in the back. Why didn't you approach me? Because I knew what I was. And what was that? A man who would eventually want too much. The honesty silenced her. Dante walked toward the bed, but stopped beyond reach. I did not hire you because I was tired of loving a ghost. I hired you because the museum's chief restorer died, and you were the only person capable of recovering the Belandi layers without destroying them. That sounds almost reasonable. It was also an excuse. For what? To see you without standing across a street. Elena looked down at her hands. Were all the photographs Vittorio's? No. Her heart tightened. Dante did not hide from the truth. Some were security records, photographs taken by men assigned to protect you. I kept them because they proved you were alive. The one at the train window? Mine. You followed me onto a train? I was traveling to Milan. You were in the next carriage, and you took a picture while I slept. Yes, that is disturbing. Yes. Do you regret it? His casa held hers. No. The answer should have frightened her. It did, but not enough. What else? She asked. Dante's face became guarded. What else did you do? I bought the building where your studio is located. Elena stared at him. You are my landlord? Indirectly. My rent dropped 3 years ago. Yes. I thought the owner respected conservation work. He does now, don't she? You asked. She rubbed a hand over her eyes. The scholarship in Rome? My mother's foundation. The anonymous donor who paid for the laser equipment? Yes. The hospital that treated my scar revision? Yes. Anger rose through her. You built my life without telling me. No. His response was calm, but firm. You built your life. I removed obstacles. You manipulated circumstances. Yes. You made choices for me. Yes. You scared men away. 2 men. That is not a defense. No. She looked at him. Why are you not apologizing? Because apology without change is manipulation. The answer caught her off guard. Dante continued, I cannot undo what I did. I can tell you the truth, accept what you decide, and never interfere again. Can you? His expression darkened. No. The single word entered the room like a confession. I can stop controlling your work, your home, and the people around you. I cannot promise I will stop protecting you. I cannot promise indifference, and I will not insult you by pretending I can become harmless. Elena felt her pulse deepen. You think that is romantic? No. What do you think it is? Honest. She turned toward the rain. For years, people had looked at her scar and lied. They called it barely visible. They called it beautiful to prove their kindness. They told her it did not matter while staring at it. Dante never lied about what he saw. He saw damage. He saw survival. He saw her, even when she wanted to hate the way he did it. The hidden chamber, she said. What happens now? We destroy the archive. Elena looked at him sharply. No. It is the only way to make you safe. It is my parents' evidence. It is a death sentence. It could expose Vittorio. It could expose senators, judges, museum directors, and 5 families with private armies. Vittorio is only the first man who will come for you. My mother died creating it. Your mother died trying to protect you. You did not know her. I knew enough. Elena pushed back the sheets. Dante moved instantly. What are you doing? Going to the museum. You have stitches, and you have a bullet wound. Mine is inconvenient. Yours is dangerous. I need to see the archive. No. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Pain stole her breath. Dante caught her shoulders. Their faces were suddenly close. Stop fighting me for 1 minute. Stop deciding my life for 1 minute. His fingers tightened, not painfully, desperately. You nearly died in that nursery. So did you 16 years ago. That is different. Because you think your life matters less? His eyes went cold. It does. The answer filled her with fury. She grabbed the front of his shirt. Do not say that. Dante stared at her hand. Why? Because I remember you carrying me out. He became still. I remember the fire. I remember your coat around me. I remember you bleeding in the ambulance and refusing to let go. Elena, you saved me before you knew what I would become. I knew enough. You were 19. I was old enough to lose your father, to inherit a war, to hide a child everyone wanted dead. He looked away. Elena tightened her grip. You do not get to make your life disposable because people fear you. His eyes returned to hers. Something raw moved through them. Why does it matter to you? The question was almost angry because he was afraid of her answer. Elena did not have one she could safely give, so she released him. It matters. Dante's hand rose toward her face. Once again, it stopped. This time, Elena closed the distance herself. She placed his palm against her scar. His breath left him. The moment stretched. No kiss. No confession. Only his hand against the part of her everyone else avoided. Elena leaned into his touch. Dante's eyes darkened with unbearable restraint. A phone rang in the hallway. He closed his eyes briefly, as though the sound had saved them from something neither was ready to survive. Tommaso entered after Dante gave permission. We have a problem. Dante's hand fell away. What? Vittorio called a council of the families. When? Tomorrow night. Location? The museum. Elena stared at him. Why would he choose your museum? Tommaso looked toward her. Because he knows what is underneath it. Dante's face turned lethal. He plans to expose the archive. No, Elena said. The men looked at her. She remembered Vittorio's words. The child opened the door. He plans to expose me. The council began beneath chandeliers that had survived wars, floods, and 3 centuries of men believing wealth could make them immortal. Black cars arrived one after another at Palazzo Valenti. The Moretti family from Milan, the Orsini network from Rome, the De Luca brothers from Naples, bankers, smugglers, politicians, and men who owned judges without ever knowing their names. Each entered Dante's museum with armed escorts. Each believed they had come to negotiate territory after the attacks. Only Dante's inner circle knew that beneath their feet rested an archive capable of destroying them all. Elena watched the arrivals from a hidden room above the main gallery. Her sigh out. Beneath the fitted black dress Dr. Marchetti had argued against. Dante had argued more forcefully. She came anyway. He entered behind her. For the first time since she had known him, he wore no jacket. A shoulder holster crossed his white shirt. His injured arm remained bandaged beneath the fabric. His gaze moved over Elena from head to toe. Not admiring, assessing. You should be in bed. You tried locking the door. You picked the lock. I restore Renaissance cabinets. Your modern lock was insulting. Dante approached. This is not a game. I know. If Vittorio sees you, he already knows I'm alive. The other families do not. They will, when he tells them. That is why you are leaving through the west tunnel. No. Dante's expression hardened. Elena held up a small notebook. I understand part of the code. His eyes dropped to it. The moth sequence is not only an archive. What is it? A map of ownership to the stolen collections and to accounts, properties, political donations, everything my father controlled. Dante went silent. Elena continued, the paintings do not merely accuse the families, they transfer power. To you. Yes, the word felt unreal. Dante moved closer. If they learn that, they will not only kill you, they will tear Florence apart, trying to possess you. I am not property. To them, an heir is a key. And to you, his gaze sharpened. Do not ask questions you already know the answer to. I need to hear it. You are not a key. What am I? Dante looked at her for a long moment. The only thing in this building I would not sacrifice. The council chamber doors opened below. Voices echoed through the gallery. Elena's pulse raced. You may have to sacrifice the museum. I know. You spent 16 years building it. I know. It contains your father's collection. His expression did not change. It contains your mother's last work. That struck deeper. Dante looked toward the hidden door leading to the archive. I know. Elena understood then. He had already made the decision. What have you done? Prepared the building? For what? Before he could answer, applause rose from the gallery. Vittorio had arrived. He entered beneath the central chandelier in a grey suit, his wounded shoulder hidden beneath an elegant coat. Armed men spread through the museum. At his side walked a young woman Elena recognized from cultural magazines. Bianca Salvi, Vittorio's daughter, Dante's cousin. Bianca's face was pale, her eyes fixed on the floor. Dante touched his earpiece. Position. Men moved through hidden passages. Elena caught his wrist. Do not leave me here. His eyes lowered to her fingers. You need to remain unseen. I spent 16 years hidden. Tonight is not the night to become visible. Then when? When everyone who wants you is dead. The calm brutality of the promise should have pushed her away. Instead, it made her step closer. What if that includes half the city? I have burned larger things for smaller reasons. The words foreshadowed something she did not yet understand. Dante touched her cheek. No hesitation this time. His thumb moved once over her scar. Use the west tunnel when Tommaso comes. You expect me to obey? No. Then why say it? Because hope is sometimes irrational. He turned away. Elena caught his hand. Dante stopped. She rose onto her toes and pressed her lips to his cheek, not his mouth. Not yet. The contact was brief, but Dante froze, as though she had placed a blade against his throat. Come back, she whispered. His eyes closed for 1 second. When they opened, the Mafia Boss had returned. Always. He descended into the gallery. Vittorio stood beneath Botticelli angels and addressed the most dangerous men in Italy as though hosting a charity auction. My nephew has invited us into his beautiful museum many times, he began. But he has never shown us what lies beneath it. Dante entered from the western archway. Conversation died. He walked alone to the center of the room. You were not invited tonight, Vittorio. Neither was the truth. Vittorio smiled. Yet both of us arrived. Dante's gaze moved toward Bianca. You brought your daughter into this. I brought an heir. Bianca flinched. Dante's face remained cold. No. You brought a shield. The families watched in silence. Vittorio raised one hand. A screen descended above the gallery. The first image appeared. The white moth portrait. Murmurs spread through the room. Then came photographs of the hidden chamber. Rows of coded paintings, documents beneath ultraviolet light. Fragments of names and account numbers. Elena watched from above, realizing someone had copied the archive before the attack. Dante looked toward Tommaso. Tommaso shook his head. Vittorio continued. 16 years ago, Alessandro Belandi attempted to betray every family represented in this room. He created an archive designed to destroy us. A Rome banker stood Valenti died. His daughter did not. The next image appeared, Elena's orphanage photograph. Then, her university records. Then, a recent image of her entering the museum. A collective shift moved through the gallery. Every predator in the room had found the same target. Dante did not look up. Vittorio smiled at him. You hid her. Yes. The admission shocked the room. You protected the child of a traitor. Yes. You allowed her to unlock the archive. Yes. Why? Dante's expression did not change. Because it belonged to her. The De Luca brothers exchanged a glance. One of the Moretti men moved his hand toward his coat. Dante noticed. If anyone reaches for a weapon, he said calmly, the museum doors seal and the oxygen leaves this room. No one moved. Vittorio laughed. You see? He threatens all of us for one woman. Dante looked directly at his uncle. No, I am threatening all of you because you are in my house. The screen changed again. A live camera showed Elena in the hidden observation room. Her blood went cold. Someone had activated the security feed. Dante looked up. For the first time, true fear entered his face. Vittorio had been waiting for it. There she is, he said. Every head turned toward the balcony. Elena stepped away from the monitor. The door behind her opened. Bianca Salvi entered and closed it quietly. Elena reached for the small blade hidden beneath her sleeve. Bianca raised empty hands. I am not here to hurt you. You arrived with Vittorio. He is my father. That has never meant I came willingly. Below, Dante ordered his men toward the balcony. Vittorio's guards blocked them. Bianca approached Elena. We have less than a minute. For what? For him to realize the feed is pre-recorded? Elena looked at the screen. The image showed her standing in the room, but the clock in the corner was 7 minutes behind. Why help me? Because my father killed my mother when she tried to leave him. Bianca's voice remained controlled, but grief lived beneath every word. He told everyone she died in Switzerland. Dante knows the truth. He has kept me alive because my father believes Dante would never turn me against him. What do you need from me? The final code. I don't have it. Yes, you do. Bianca removed a pendant from her neck. A white moth hung from the chain. Elena stared at it. My mother gave me this before she died, Bianca said. She said Lucia Belandi entrusted it to her, Elena's mother. Bianca placed the pendant in Elena's hand. A memory opened. 2 women in a restoration room. Her mother painting a moth onto a tiny piece of ivory. When the child returns, tell her the final painting was never meant to survive. Elena closed her fingers around the pendant. The archive is a trap, Bianca nodded. Your mother knew the families would gather if it was discovered. What happens when they do? The museum burns. Below, Dante looked toward the ceiling. He already knew. Elena remembered his words, prepared the building. He had discovered the same instruction. He plans to burn it tonight. Yes. With everyone inside? Bianca looked toward the armed men in the gallery. With anyone who tries to take you, alarms began to ring. Steel shutters descended over the windows. The great entrance doors sealed. Vittorio's smile disappeared. Dante stood beneath the chandelier, one hand resting near his weapon. You wanted the Belandi archive, he said. You should have read the final page. Smoke curled from the eastern gallery. A man shouted. Then, flames erupted behind the Botticelli room. Chaos exploded. The families drew weapons. Dante's men opened the side passages, directing servants and unarmed guests toward the courtyard exits while locking Vittorio's soldiers inside the central wing. Elena ran toward the balcony door. Bianca caught her. Where are you going? To stop him. He is doing this for you. He is still inside. He designed the escape route. You don't know Dante. Elena opened the door. Heat struck her face. Below, gunfire erupted through smoke. Dante moved between marble pillars, firing with terrifying precision. He reached Vittorio near the central staircase. The 2 men collided. Vittorio's weapon slid across the floor. Dante drove him into the railing. Elena descended through the burning gallery. A guard seized her arm. She struck him with the pendant and tore free. Dante, His head turned. Vittorio used the distraction to draw a knife. The blade entered Dante's side. Elena screamed. Dante looked down at the knife, then at his uncle. He pulled it free and drove Vittorio backward through the glass display containing the moth portrait. The painting tore between them. Flames climbed the curtains. Vittorio crawled through broken glass. "You will destroy everything your father built," he spat. Dante stood above him, blood spreading across his white shirt. "My father died trying to destroy what you built." He raised his gun. Elena reached them. "Wait." Dante looked at her. His face was streaked with smoke and blood. "Why are you here? I told you not to make your life disposable. This is not the time." Vittorio lunged toward Elena. Dante fired. The bullet struck Vittorio's chest. He fell against the burning portrait. For a moment, his eyes remained open. Then the flames took the canvas beneath him. Dante grabbed Elena's arm. "We need to leave. The archive. Gone. My mother's work. Gone. The evidence. Copied." Elena stared at him. "Where?" "With Bianca. Enough to expose Vittorio and the officials who served him. Not enough to identify you as the heir. You chose what survived. I chose what would not kill you." Anger and grief twisted together. "You had no right." "No." The answer was immediate. Elena stopped. Dante pulled her closer as burning timber fell behind them. "I had no right," he repeated. "I did it anyway." The ceiling groaned. They ran. Smoke swallowed the western gallery. Dante shielded Elena beneath his injured arm as they moved through falling embers. At the courtyard doors, 2 Moretti gunmen blocked the exit. One raised his weapon toward Elena. Dante stepped in front of her. Gunfire erupted. His body jerked. Elena felt him stumble. Tommaso fired from the side corridor, killing both gunmen. Dante remained standing. A dark stain spread across his back. "No," Elena whispered. He turned toward her. His face was pale. "Keep moving. You've been shot. It missed the important parts. You don't know that. I rarely use them." Even then, he tried to keep fear from her. They reached the courtyard. Rain fell in torrents. Families poured from side exits into waiting cars. Some shouted orders. Others watched the museum burn with the stunned silence of men witnessing the destruction of something they believed eternal. Elena turned beneath the rain. Palazzo Valenti blazed against the Florence night. Centuries of art disappeared behind fire. The roof collapsed over the hidden chamber. Every photograph, every coded painting, every remaining piece of her mother's voice, gone. Dante stood a few feet away, blood mixing with rain on his white shirt. Rival families watched from black cars. He looked at Elena through smoke and falling ash. She could barely speak. "You burned it all." "Yes." "For me?" His expression did not soften. That made the truth more powerful. "They cannot kill you for what no longer exists." The Western Tower collapsed. A wave of sparks rose behind him. Elena crossed the distance and struck him across the face. The courtyard fell silent. Dante accepted the blow. "You erased my parents." "No, you destroyed everything they left." "I destroyed the weapon they placed in your hands. It was my choice." "Yes, you took it from me." "Yes." Tears mixed with rain on her face. "I hate you." Dante's eyes held hers. "I know. You think burning a museum proves you love me?" "No." "What does it prove?" "That I would rather have you alive and hating me than buried beneath something dead people ask you to carry." The words broke through her anger. Dante swayed. Elena saw the blood pooling beneath his shoes. She caught him as his knees gave way. This time, when he fell into her arms, he did not remain conscious long enough to pretend he was fine. "Don't." His hand found her scar through the rain. "Do not let them take you," he whispered again. Elena pressed her forehead against his. "No one is taking either of us." His eyes closed. Behind them, the museum burned until the night itself turned gold. Dante remained unconscious for 3 days. Florence changed while he slept. Vittorio Salvi's death fractured his political network. Bianca released selected pages from the archive to prosecutors in Rome, Paris, and Brussels. Judges resigned. Museum directors disappeared. 2 senators denied everything before investigators reached their homes. The evidence proved Vittorio had ordered murders, financed trafficking routes, and it did not name Elena. Dante had removed every file connecting Lucia and Alessandro Belandi to their surviving daughter. He had protected her identity even while destroying the originals. The criminal families blamed Vittorio for creating the archive crisis. None wanted to admit they had attended the council or tried to seize the Belandi heir. Tommaso used that fear. By the second morning, every family had signed a truce recognizing Dante's control of Florence. By the third, the city believed the museum fire had resulted from an electrical failure during a private gala. Elena sat beside Dante's hospital bed and watched the lies become history. She had not forgiven him. She had not left. Dr. Marchetti entered shortly before sunset. He may wake tonight. May? He lost a great deal of blood. Elena looked at Dante's motionless face. Will he recover? Physically and otherwise? The doctor's expression softened. Men like Dante do not recover. They continue. Elena disliked the answer because it sounded true. After the doctor left, she opened the small box Bianca had delivered. Inside lay the white moth pendant and a folded letter protected by waxed paper. The letter had survived outside the archive. Lucia Belandi's handwriting moved across the page. My little Elena, if you are reading this, then the paintings have done what I feared and what I hoped. They have brought you back to the truth. Your father believed truth could save a city. I believed truth could save a child. We were both wrong in different ways. Truth is only a tool. In loving hands, it becomes freedom. In cruel hands, it becomes another weapon. You owe us nothing. Elena stopped reading. The words blurred. She continued, do not confuse inheritance with duty. You are not required to finish our war. You are not required to punish every person who failed us. You are not required to become the final Belandi. Leave as Elena. Restore what you choose. Leave broken what would cut you open again. And remember the boy with the grey eyes. He will believe violence is the only language capable of protecting love. He learned that from the men around him. Do not trust him easily, but do not mistake his darkness for emptiness. Elena looked at Dante. Even unconscious, his hand rested near the edge of the mattress as though searching for a weapon. Or, for her, the final line shook in Lucia's handwriting. He saved you from the fire. One day, someone may need to save him from living inside it. Dante's fingers moved. Elena folded the letter. His eyes opened slowly. The first thing he did was search the room. The second was, look at her. You stayed. His voice was barely audible. Yes. Why? You ask too many questions after being shot. A faint breath that might have been laughter left him. Elena poured water and held the glass to his mouth. He drank without looking away from her. When she set it down, silence filled the room. Dante spoke first. How much do you hate me? Today? His mouth shifted slightly. Today. Less than in the courtyard. That is progress. It is not forgiveness. I did not expect it. Did you expect me to leave? Yes. Why? Because you should. Elena leaned back. You burned a museum, survived 3 wounds, and your first plan is to send me away. My first plan is to remove every reason for you to stay. That sounds like control again. It is the opposite. No, you are deciding that I deserve a life without you, which conveniently prevents me from deciding whether I want one. Dante stared at her. Elena removed the letter from the box. My mother wrote about you. His expression changed. What did she say? That you were dramatic. She barely knew me. She knew enough. Elena placed the letter on his chest. Dante read slowly. When he reached the final line, his face became unreadable. She should not have trusted me. She didn't. His eyes lifted. She told me not to trust you easily. That is better advice. She also told me to live as Elena. You should. I am trying. Dante folded the letter with surprising care. Elena watched his hands. You preserved this. Yes. Why this letter and not the archive? Because it belonged only to you. And the unfinished portrait? His silence answered. Her chest tightened. You burned it. Yes. She looked away. Dante's voice was low. I am sorry. The words carried no expectation, no defense. Elena pressed her lips together. That was the only image I had of myself before the scar. I know. You had no right. I know. I may never forgive you for that. I know. She hated how calmly he accepted the possibility. Stop saying that. What would you prefer? Fight. His gaze sharpened. For forgiveness? For me. Dante became completely still. Elena rose from the chair. I need to know that burning the museum was not your final decision about us. I need to know you did not save me just to place me on another distant street where you can watch from a car. Elena. No. You said you would answer honestly. He looked at her with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is not gentle. Neither am I. Dante's hand closed around the sheet. The truth is that when you entered my museum, I had spent 12 years teaching myself not to approach you. Elena's breathing slowed. I knew your schedule, your work, the sound of your voice from interviews. I knew when you were ill because you stopped opening the studio curtains. I knew when you were lonely because you worked until dawn. His eyes darkened. I told myself that keeping you alive was enough. And then you stood in front of me with dust in your hair and accused me of storing a Raphael under the wrong humidity. Despite herself, Elena smiled. You were. I know. You were furious. I was fascinated. His voice lowered. You did not look away from me. Everyone else looks away eventually. I was your employee. You were the first person in years who spoke to me as though fear were my inconvenience, not yours. Dante raised one hand toward her. The movement strained his wound. Elena took it before he could stop. His fingers closed around hers. The truth, he continued, is that I wanted you before I had any right to. I wanted your attention, your anger, every hour you spent beneath my roof. I wanted to touch your scar the first day I saw you because everyone else treated it like something they had to forgive. Elena's eyes burned. I wanted to kill every man who made you believe you were difficult to love. His thumb moved over her palm. I wanted to lock every door between you and the world. That sounds like you. I knew you would hate it. I do. I know. She gave him a warning look. He almost smiled. The truth is that protecting you became the excuse I used to remain close enough to breathe. The room disappeared around them. And when I thought Vittorio had killed you in the nursery, he said, I understood there was no organization, city, family, or life left in me that mattered without you. Elena's tears fell. Dante's grip tightened. I burned the museum because I love you. The confession came without beauty, without preparation, like a verdict. I loved you badly, he said, from a distance, through control, through fear. I loved you in ways that gave you no choice, and I will spend whatever remains of my life learning how not to do that. Elena leaned closer. What if you fail? I will. What if you frighten me? I already do. What if I leave? I will let you. The answer cost him. She saw it. And what will you do after I leave? Dante looked at their joined hands. Remain where you can find me. Elena closed her eyes. For 16 years, she had believed survival meant never depending on anyone, never giving another person enough power to leave a scar. But love was not the absence of danger, not with a man like Dante, perhaps not with anyone. Love was seeing the weapon and choosing whether to place it down together. Elena touched his face. His eyes closed briefly beneath her palm. I do not forgive everything. I know. I need time. You have it. I need access to every record you kept about me. You will have it. I want the apartment building transferred out of your control. Done. I will choose my own security. His eyes opened. No, Dante. Choose the men. Fire them whenever you like. But you will have security. That is not compromise. It is the best I can do while trapped in a hospital bed. She laughed through her tears. The sound changed him. His expression softened, not into weakness, but wonder. Elena bent closer. Their mouths almost touched. Dante did not move. For a man who had controlled armies, judges, and entire streets, he waited for her. "May I?" she whispered. His breath caught. "Yes." Elena kissed him. Slowly. The first contact was almost careful enough to break her heart. Then Dante's hand moved to the back of her neck, and years of restraint entered the kiss. Not violence. Need. Controlled only because he knew how easily need could become possession. Elena felt his fear beneath it. Fear of hurting her. Fear of losing her. Fear that this moment might end and never return. She kissed him until the machines beside the bed began sounding faster. Then she pulled back. Dante's forehead rested against hers. "You should recover before attempting anything dramatic. I burned a museum for you." "That is exactly the type of dramatic behavior I mean." His thumb traced the edge of her scar. "This does not frighten me," he said. "The scar? Loving you." She searched his eyes. "What frightens you?" "That you may believe they are the same thing." 6 months later, spring returned to Florence. The ruins of Palazzo Valenti remained closed behind stone walls and scaffolding. The city debated whether the museum should be rebuilt. Dante refused every proposal. He donated the surviving public works to institutions across Italy. Paintings with questionable ownership were returned quietly to families, churches, and governments that had lost them decades earlier. The site itself remained empty, not a monument to what had burned, a refusal to rebuild the same prison. Elena opened a restoration school in a former convent overlooking the Arno. She named it Casa Lucia. The school accepted damaged works other institutions considered too expensive, too obscure, or too broken to save. It also trained young restorers from foster homes and state care programs. Dante funded the structural repairs. Elena made him sign documents stating he had no creative authority. He signed them without argument. Then he purchased the neighboring property and filled it with security personnel. They continued negotiating. Some nights, Elena stayed at Villa Serafina. Some nights, she returned to her own apartment. Dante never entered without being invited. He hated the rule. He obeyed it. Their relationship did not become easy. Dante remained dangerous. He still solved certain problems with silence, money, and men who arrived after midnight. Elena still discovered decisions he believed were protection and she believed were control. They fought in marble hallways. They argued in restoration studios. Once, she refused to speak to him for 4 days after learning he had placed a tracking device inside her car. Dante removed it, then replaced the car with one containing a manufacturer-installed emergency system and claimed innocence. Elena nearly threw a paintbrush at his head, but he changed. Slowly, he began asking before interfering. He learned that protection offered was different from protection imposed. He told her when danger approached, instead of hiding it until bullets reached the windows. And Elena changed too. She stopped treating every need as weakness. She allowed guards to walk her home. She called Dante when nightmares returned. She let him sit outside the bathroom door when memories of smoke made enclosed spaces impossible. On the anniversary of the fire, Dante took her to a small chapel in the Tuscan hills. His father was buried there beneath a simple stone. Elena placed white moths beside the grave. Dante stood several feet away, hands in his coat pockets. "He died believing he had failed you," he said. "He saved you long enough to save me." Dante looked toward the valley. "That does not feel like enough." "Survival rarely does." She took his hand. He looked down at their joined fingers as if the gesture still surprised him. They remained until sunset. Then Dante drove her home through rain. Not to the villa, to her apartment. He walked her upstairs and waited while she unlocked the door. "You are not coming in?" she asked. "You said you needed to work." "I did." He nodded and stepped back. Elena studied him. Months earlier, he would have invented a security reason to enter. He would have placed 2 men in the hallway and watched her windows from the street. Tonight, he was leaving because she had asked for space. The fact that he could frighten her less than she expected. "Don't you?" He turned. "Come inside." His gaze searched her face. "Are you certain?" "Yes." He followed her into the apartment. On the easel near the window, stood a covered canvas. Dante stopped when he saw it. Elena removed the cloth. The unfinished portrait had not been destroyed. Not entirely. Before the museum fire, Bianca had removed the central canvas from its frame and replaced it with a photographic copy. The original had been damaged along the edges, but the image of the little girl remained. Elena had spent months restoring it. The painted child sat beside the easel in her blue dress, one side of her face untouched by fire because the portrait had been created before the scar. But Elena had changed one detail. She had painted a faint white moth on the child's shoulder. Dante approached slowly. "You saved it. Bianca saved it. You restored it." "Yes." His eyes moved over the portrait. "I thought I destroyed the last thing you had of her." "You almost did." Pain crossed his face. Elena stepped beside him. "My mother wrote that restorers must know when to preserve damage." Dante looked at her. "So, I did not erase every burn." Along the lower edge, the canvas remained darkened by fire. The scars were visible, integrated, part of the work's history, but not the whole image. Dante touched the air near the canvas without making contact. "What will you do with it?" "Keep it here. No museum, no hidden room." His gaze shifted to her scar. "No locked doors," she added. Something settled in him. Elena walked toward the open window. Rain silvered the Florence rooftops. In the distance, the dark shell of Palazzo Valenti stood against the sky. Dante joined her. For a while, neither spoke. The city below them continued, without knowing how close it had come to burning for more than art. Elena rested her head against Dante's shoulder. His arm moved around her carefully. Even after months, he still protected the healing wound at her side. "You once said you had secret tunnels beneath most things you own," she said. "I do. Do you have one beneath this building?" Dante remained suspiciously silent. Elena lifted her head. "You do. It exits near the river." "When did you build it?" "I improved an existing cellar passage." "Without telling me?" "I intended to tell you." "When?" "During an emergency." She narrowed her eyes. Dante's expression remained calm. "You are impossible. You invited me inside. That was before the tunnel confession." He pulled her slightly closer. "You can make me leave." Elena looked into the face, feared by half of Italy, a man who had burned a fortune rather than allow it to become her execution chamber, a man who had loved her badly, then stayed to learn another way, a man still dangerous enough to terrify her enemies and emotionally wounded enough to believe he had to earn every moment she remained. She touched the scar beneath his ribs through his shirt, the one he had received the night he carried her from the fire. "No," she said. "Stay." Dante's eyes darkened. "For tonight?" Elena looked toward the restored portrait, the rain, and the open door behind them. "For as long as you remember that staying is not the same as owning." His hand rose to her scar. "For as long as you remember that being loved is not the same as being trapped." She smiled, then kissed him beneath the stormlit windows. Far across Florence, the bells began to ring midnight. The museum was gone. The archive was ash. The families still whispered about the Belandi heir, never realizing she walked openly through the city, restoring forgotten saints, burned angels, and faces other people had abandoned. Dante never rebuilt his private collection. He built something else instead. A life with unlocked doors, a home where Elena could leave whenever she chose. And every night she returned, the most feared man in Florence looked at her as though her choice to come back was the only power he had never been able to purchase, threaten, inherit, or steal. Years later, visitors to Casa Lucia often stopped before the portrait of the little girl beside the easel. They noticed the white moth, the burned edges, the faint line dividing one wing. Some asked Elena why the damage had not been fully erased. She always gave the same answer: because restoration is not the art of pretending nothing happened. Then she would look across the sunlit studio toward Dante, standing in the doorway with his dark suit, guarded eyes, and one hand extended toward her. "It is the art of deciding what the fire does not get to keep." Elena would place her hand in his, and together they would walk into the city that had tried to bury them beneath its most beautiful lies. Not innocent, not unscarred, not safe in the way ordinary people understood safety, but alive, free, and finally, no longer watching each other from opposite sides of a locked door.